What's going on, everybody? Wanted to bring up a topic that I've been thinking about a lot about recently, and it's the benefits of being self-aware. And before I get too far into it, I'd like to sort of give an example of what I think being self-aware is. Recently, I've come to terms with the fact that the mind is so powerful that you can actually objectively observe the world in a way where you're not reacting using emotion or acting out just because you think that this is what your body or mind wants. You're in fact more of someone in a movie theater seat sitting and watching the movie play out, and you have your own mind and you're thinking about what's going on the movie screen. So there's this metacognitive happening where you're actually watching and thinking about the things that you're watching and thinking. It's really abstract to some degree, but if you think about it, it makes complete sense. If someone approaches you and suddenly they're getting sideways with you about something, they're saying, "Hey, fuck you, you're a problem, you da 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 da, this and this." Well, you have the option of reacting with your emotions, and right away you're going off saying the same thing to them, reflecting exactly what they're giving you. Or you can take a second and think to yourself, okay, why is this person doing that? Start noticing things about them. Why are they upset? What could have caused them to be upset? What type of clothes are they wearing? Do they look threatening? Do they have something in their hand? This is clearly an extreme example of something I'm trying to point out, though, where you have the option of determining what you're going to do next by simply thinking about what exactly your mind and body are telling you. Another great example of this is when you're faced with situations that are likely to get your emotions up, other than something like a confrontation with another person, but maybe there's detailed news that you get where most likely you're going to react in a way that is sort of uncontrollable. If you take that and you, instead of react, you observe the emotion and notice that it's there, you can much more calmly deal with your mind and body, the output that your mind and body would send out, if that makes sense. The great thing about being self-aware in these situations is that you start to collect data. You start to notice things about your behavior specifically and how you react to certain situations. In that case, once you start to identify these patterns, you can more confidently enter situations knowing the certain types of interactions that you're going to have, and also the types of reactions that you're going to have. Once you do this, you can flawlessly carry on in your life knowing what to do when a new situation happens, because most likely these new situations are actually very similar, if not the same, to situations previously. It's just in a different environment, a new context, new faces, unfamiliar territory. But if you can sort of develop a template of who you are and how you're going to behave and react, you can carry that with you through your life and know that wherever you go, this is who you are. Thus, you come full circle to understanding that you are a sentient being capable of understanding the sentient being that you are. It's a pretty fascinating tool, and I've used it a lot recently, and it's so rewarding to know that when you're faced with a situation that you have a difficult emotional response to, it's a lot like having a knot in your head. I'm sure people have played with a yo-yo or something like that back when you were younger, and the yo-yo string would get in a knot. And you're like, fuck this, I fucking hate this shit because it happens all the goddamn time, and I always have to undo these knots. But if you think about it, it's a similar thing as to what's going on in your head. You get these knots in your head, and suddenly it starts to bother you. And maybe not. Maybe you're good at putting it away, storing it away. I prefer to deal with it and undo the knot. So you sit there and you start to pick at it. And by picking at it, I mean you start to think about the situation. You start to think about what was all going on in this environment with these people that you're with, what caused this emotion to arise in you. When you do that, you start to notice those patterns again, and you start to trace back to not only the emotion, but things leading up to the emotion. And once you've identified what that principal thing was that sort of set off the path to the rise in whatever, maybe your blood pressure or whatever it is, just the emotional event that sort of sets you off, that's where the roots lie. That's finally getting to undo the knot. And it's very rewarding. I highly recommend that you take some time and start to think about things in your life that you have an emotional response to. There's actually been studies where they sat people down, and this is actually from Jordan Peterson. He talked about this on a podcast, but they sat people down, had them write about an emotional time in their life, and they had them do it multiple times. Eventually, these people started identifying patterns in what was happening. And not only that, they started realizing that these roots, these knots that they were untangling were following them through their life. And they didn't even realize it. They had no idea what the fuck was wrong with them, but it was these emotional responses that they never dealt with, that they were carrying with them through their life. So in their day-to-day interactions, due to some weird shit, someone touched their balls when they were young, or someone, made fun of their family and their family members were all dead or something like that. It's those small things that end up being who you are day to day, but it's uncontrolled. You don't realize it's there because you haven't thought to yourself, I need to take a look at these situations and how I'm behaving because of these situations. Once you do that, I can guarantee you will recognize patterns. The patterns that you recognize will start to make sense why you do them, why they're there, why they exist. You can change them. You can become something else because you are now objectively thinking about the world that you exist in. So take some time and think about your day-to-day interactions. Meditate. Understand who you are and the creature that you're becoming, that you've been. Because chances are, if you hadn't put any thought into this up until this point, it's going to freak you out a little bit. But calm down, stay calm, just remain cool, chill the fuck out, you'll be fine. Nothing bad is going to happen to you or your brain. In fact, if you do have some stress that gets released or whatever it is, just understand why it's there and respect it. Respect yourself for doing that, for making your life now a much easier and more manageable thing. Life is fucking crazy, people, and you will see some fucking crazy shit. But if you can sit there and objectively take the input data and just interpret it in a way that is manageable for you, and then whatever comes as an output, hey, that's great. You fucking won. There's a little secret to life, people. So get out there, think about your life, and then start experiencing your life as an objective observer. Clearly you're going to have biases, but always remember that you don't have to react to things right away. It's good to take things in, observe them, analyze them, understand why you're behaving the way you're behaving to a certain input. And then you finally become master of your world. Thanks for listening. Any feedback is much appreciated.